Our next video is your C pre-trip. This is when the examiner goes, okay, you got kind of lucky. All you got to do is talk about your trailer. Well, then that should click in your head that that's a C pre-trip. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at the front of my trailer. I'm simply going to work myself down, okay? So here's the front of my trailer. No visible damage, no holes, and all my rivets are in place. As I come around, I'm going to inspect the side of my trailer. Again, no holes, no visible damage, all my rivets are in place. When I look at the top of my trailer, I have my clearance lights. My clearance lights need to be properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose, clean, and the proper color of amber. Then, on the side of my trailer, I have my DOT reflective tape. Again, I need to make sure it's properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose, and it's also clean. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to inspect the underside front of my trailer. The first thing I want to inspect is my floor. As I inspect my floor, there should be no holes or any visible damage. Then I'm going to inspect my frame, my cross frames, and all my little rivets. I need to make sure that everything is properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose, and that all my rivets are in place. Now up here, Tim's going to show you, up above the tires here, there are air and electrical lines that run the back side of your trailer. You want to ensure that these air lines and electrical lines are properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose, not cut, cracked, or frayed, no abrasions, bumps, or cuts, and nothing is leaking. Then as I continue down the trailer, I'm going to stop here at my landing gear. I need to talk about my landing gear, the frame, the foot, and the handle. All three need to be properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. The feet should be fully retracted off the ground, and the handle should be stored safely in its own bracket. As I continue down the side of my trailer, I'm going to stop right here at my mid-trailer light. I want to ensure that that light is properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose, clean, proper color of amber, controls my left, my right, and my four-way flashers. As I continue down the side of my trailer yet again, I'm going to simply look underneath. Underneath here, I've got a bunch of air and electrical lines. I need to ensure that everything is properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose, not cut, cracked, or frayed. There are no abrasions, bumps, or cuts, and nothing is leaking. Then I'm going to move over and discuss my tandem release handle and my locking pins. I need to ensure that both are properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose, and obviously that they're all stored in their locked position, and the handle itself is not bent, dent, or broken. Okay? Now, we're going to move on to the trailer axle. Now, the trailer axle is the exact same carbon copy of every other axle. Here's the tricky part. A lot of the trailers that you will be driving, they don't have the rear wheel suspension back here. So you won't be able to see the suspension. But in the state of Tennessee, when you give your examination, you still have to talk about it. So, remember what we talked about up front. I would then come down here and discuss about my leaf springs being properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. Nothing's broken, shifted, or missing. I would discuss my spring hanger and mounts being properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose, and there's no excessive wear on my bushings. Then I would move on to my U-bolts, properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. The U-bolts are not bent, dent, or broken. And then again, I would talk about my shock and my shock mounts, properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose, not leaking, no excessive wear on my bushings. Then again, I would move right on into my brakes, okay? My brake chambers and all that are right here. So I got to look at my brake and my ABS air lines. I want to ensure that they're properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, loose, or leaking. I want to ensure that my brake chamber, my push rod, and my slack adjusters are all properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, loose, or leaking. The brake chamber should show no signs of being bent, dent, broken, or any damage. Slack adjuster should be at a 90 degree angle. The push rod should have no more than 1 inch of travel when I release my brakes. All my cotter pins are in place, and that clamp that holds everything together is nice and secure. Then I would again move on to my brake drum and linings, and you might get a better picture since we're on this side of it. You might be able to see them a little bit better. So what I'm inspecting there is to again make sure that they're properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. Nothing's leaking. All my bolts are present. They're free of oil and grease, and I've got a minimum of a 1/4 inch of lining. Now I'm simply going to move right on into my inner and outer rims. Again, making sure that they're properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose, and there's no unauthorized welds. I'd talk about my lug nuts, properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. I would then discuss my axle oil seal, properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, loose, or leaking. It is filled to the proper level. And again, the lug nuts are properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose on my hub oil seal. I would then check again my tires for inflation, condition, and depth, making sure that that valve stem is properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, loose, or leaking. Put a tire gauge on there, get a reading, act accordingly. The tires themselves show no signs of abrasions, bulges, bumps, or cuts. I do witness even tread depth, or even tread wear, I apologize, and my depth is a minimum of 2/32 of an inch. Again, dual tires, so you got to talk about your spacer. My spacer is properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose, and inside they are free of any foreign objects. Then I'm going to move back to my airbags. Remember, just like we did up front, there's our airbags and our mounts. I need to ensure that they're properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose, not cut, cracked, or frayed, no abrasions, bumps, or cuts, and nothing is leaking. I would also check my torque arms back here. I want to ensure those are properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose, no excessive wear on the bushings. Then I move on to my mud flap, properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. Then I would move on to my door hanger. Now the door hanger is just when you open up the back side of your trailer, there's going to be a little door tie there that you just hook on it, and that's how you keep the trailer doors open. But for your pre-trip, just you want to make sure that it's properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. Back here, this is my ABS light. I want to ensure that it's properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. It's clean and it's amber in color. Now, if this light was to come on and it was to stay on, then you need to get your ABS serviced before you go back out on the road again. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to discuss all my lights. And I do this all at one time. So I've got my rear trailer lights. As you can tell back here, I've got my back bank of brake lights. And then way up top, I've got my clearance lights. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about all these lights, but still point to them so my examiner knows that I'm talking about all of them. So all my lights are properly mounted, secured. They're not cracked, damaged, or loose. They're clean, proper color of red. These lights here, left, right, four-way flashers, parking brake, service brake, and emergency brakes. I'm going to talk about my door and my door hinges. I want to ensure that both are properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. All the nuts and bolts are in place. Then I'm going to discuss my handles and my latch bars. I want to ensure that both are properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. The latch bars do latch from the top and at the bottom. I'm going to check my door seal. I want to ensure that my door seal is properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose, not cut, cracked, or frayed. It does seal the entire back side of my trailer so nothing can leak in. These are my door ties, my bumper, and my DOT reflective tape. I want to ensure that all three are properly mounted, secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose, and my tape is clean. Now that is the complete C pre-trip. What we are going to move on to the next video is to discuss coupling.